Hello, folks. Welcome to my channel. This is a story about a young man who managed to survive over 100 days after the zombie apocalypse began. Let's watch the video. Day 1. It all started when Ben was driving home from work. He was just an ordinary guy with an ordinary life, until one day, everything changed. When he was driving, his phone rang, and on the other end of the line was his sister. She was crying and told him to turn on the TV. On TV, they showed what seemed to be a madman running through the airport shooting people. Then they showed how those very people who were shot suddenly came back to life and started biting others, and thus began the end of the world. Ben turned his car around and headed home, hoping that there would at least be food and some survival supplies there. Day 2, Ben spent the whole day barricading himself inside his house. He nailed boards to the windows, set up a makeshift bed on the floor, and tried to calm down a bit. It was only when it got dark outside that he realized he had no way to protect himself from intruders. In the end, he found an old baseball bat in the garage and went to bed with it. Day 3. The first 3 days, Ben didn't leave his house. Eating canned food and watching TV. People on the screens were still trying to figure out what was going on. But by the 3rd day, the broadcasts had already been filled with scenes of violence and mayhem. Ben also heard strange sounds outside his window, but he was too scared to look outside to see what it was. Day 4. Ben decided to venture outside for a bit. He put on all the clothes he could find and armed himself with a baseball bat. Outside, he found scattered newspapers, some bottles and cans. But most importantly, he saw a lot of dead bodies. Having never seen a corpse before, Ben felt both disgusted and curious at the same time. He even reached out to touch one of the corpses, but then quickly pulled his hand away. Day 6. Ben's pantry was almost empty by now, so he decided to go to the supermarket. Before leaving the house, he carefully looked around the yard and took a few steps. When he heard a strange noise, he ran into the supermarket and grabbed as much food as he could, after which he returned home. Day 7. All this time, Ben kept hearing strange moans outside the house. But he never dared to open the curtains during the day. Only at night did he allow himself to do it. And what he saw made him shudder. During the day, mutilated corpses wandered around the street, and by night, their numbers increased. They were slow, clumsy, but apparently very hungry. Day 10. One night, Ben heard screams and the sound of shattering glass coming from the neighboring house. Someone was there, but who was it? Was it a living person or a monster? This question tormented him all night. In the morning, he found an axe in the garage and went to check out the neighbor's house. To his surprise, he found a girl barricaded in the room. She agreed to come live with Ben, and so he wasn't alone anymore. Day 15. Now that there were 2 of them, they decided to take a trip to the nearest farm. Ben drove the tractor while Sarah collected eggs and vegetables. They found a lot of food there, enough to last them a long time. Day 20. Back at home, Ben and Sarah watched as a herd of the Walking Dead approached their house. There were dozens of them, and they circled the house for a long time, attracted by the smell of people, but eventually they moved on. Day 30. After a month of constant stress, Ben and Sarah were exhausted. They spent the whole day in bed, occasionally getting up to eat or drink. Day 40. Ben and Sarah's food supplies were running low, so they had to go to the store again. But this time, the trip proved to be more difficult than they had anticipated. On the road, they were attacked by a man who turned out to be crazy. He was dangerous, strong, and clearly hadn't washed his teeth for a long time. In the end, Ben managed to scare him off, and the couple continued on their way. At the store, they noticed that someone had been there before them, apparently a family with children. Ben thought it was a good sign, and he decided to follow their tracks. Day 50. Following the tracks left behind by the family, Ben and Sarah finally found them. Unfortunately, their discovery was not joyful. It turned out that the family had been dead for a long time, and their trail had been leading them right into a trap. Day 60. Having learned from their own experience what a danger it could be to follow strangers in this world, Ben and Sarah decided to move further away from the city, where there was a small town surrounded by forest and fields. They hoped to start a farm there and grow their own food. Day 70. Their new house was an old wooden house that needed to be repaired. First, Ben and Sarah boarded up the broken windows and set up a place to sleep. And then they went to look around the territory. They found a lot of useful things, including a working tractor. Day 80. While walking around the house, Sarah suddenly stumbled upon a deer carcass. This was their first real meat since the beginning of the apocalypse, and they decided to cook it. Over a fire, Ben suddenly remembered that he had a lighter in his car. That meant they wouldn't have to worry about fire for a long time. Day 90. As the days went by, Ben and Sarah gradually restored the house. They cleared the land, planted crops, and hunted rabbits for food. Life was slowly getting better. Day 95. One night, Ben was awakened by strange sounds. Some wild animal had gotten into the chicken coop and was eating the chickens. Ben grabbed his axe and went outside. And what he saw made him freeze. A huge boar was tearing apart the chicken coop. Without thinking twice, Ben rushed forward and struck a blow. The boar squealed and charged at him, but Ben was ready for this. He dodged the blow and dealt another fatal strike. It turned out to be quite a tough battle, but in the end, Ben won. Day 100. 100 days had passed since the beginning of the apocalypse. Ben and Sarah sat on the porch and watched the sunset. Behind them was a house full of food, the remnants of a fire crackling merrily. Round them were the sounds of crickets and the distant barking of a dog. For the first time in a long time, they felt safe here. They had built this life with their own hands, and they intended to keep it. So, brothers and sisters, this is how a young man survived 100 days of the zombie apocalypse. It's a tough situation, but apparently he's doing well. Write in the comments below what you think about this story, and see you soon.